The Dolphins released Tyreek Hill today. New general manager Eric Sullivan and new head coach Jeff Hafley wanted a clean slate. They wanted to move on without a voice in the locker room that wasn't going to echo what they thought should be echoed, that wasn't going to be the sort of leader that they wanted around the new culture they were trying to build. But think about that. This is a dude that's an 8-time Pro Bowler, 5-time All-Pro, one of the greatest and best wide receivers of his generation. And even though he's coming off of injury, you make a decision that that's not who we want to start with. And what that tells me is this: it matters more about who you are at some points than what you can do. Let's think about Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown, in my opinion, is a first ballot Hall of Famer. When we say Larry Fitzgerald, when we say Julio Jones, when we say Calvin Johnson.
So here's what just happened. Tyreek Hill is officially a free agent for the very first time in his professional career. Not through some backdoor trade negotiation, not because he demanded his way out. The man got released, straight up cut loose. And when the NFL cuts a player of Hill's caliber, it's never about just one thing. It's about money, injuries, timing, and cold hard fear all crashing together at the exact wrong moment. Hill didn't wake up and forget how to make defensive coordinators lose sleep. The league just hit that brutal tipping point, where keeping him became scarier than letting him walk.
So, Brooke, let's talk landing spots now for Tyreek Hill. Where makes the most sense?
I mean, look, the Kansas City Chiefs are already getting the band back together, bringing back offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy. So why not also explore bringing back wide receiver Tyreek Hill, who helped them win a Super Bowl? The Chiefs, yes, have won a Super Bowl since they traded Tyreek Hill in 2022, but they have not found that consistency on offense without him. Now, part of the reason that they decided to trade him in 2022 is because they saw what could come down the pipeline as far as an extension that could get contentious, all of these things. They felt like they could get a good value from him, trading him away. But look, I think that Tyreek Hill coming back would be a lot different than the Tyreek Hill that left. I think that he's in a different spot leverage-wise. I also think that if he comes back, he has to be okay with being part of the ensemble and not being the lead singer. That's what he wanted before in Kansas City. So if he can accept that role, he makes all the sense in the world. He has chemistry with Patrick Mahomes. He knows Eric Bieniemy's system. He knows Andy Reid's system. He's familiar to everyone there. And if not there, keep an eye on another AFC West team, the Chargers, or perhaps I could be covering him in Pittsburgh. They badly need a wide receiver too. That's an option.
Hill's time in Miami was pure electricity from day one. The entire offensive system got rebuilt around his legs. Defensive coordinators threw their playbooks out the window and started making educated guesses instead. You could watch safeties retreat before the snap even happened. Corners looked terrified. Hill wasn't just putting up numbers, he was breaking defensive minds. 2 straight seasons dancing with record-breaking yardage numbers transformed Miami into an absolute nightmare to prepare for. They weren't just quick. They were suffocating teams with pure speed.
Breaking news in the NFL, the Miami Dolphins have just released Tyreek Hill. About a $60 million cap hit, but they save a bunch of money as well by making this move now. Tyreek Hill got about $65 million guaranteed in that deal. Of course, coming off the dislocated left knee, multiple torn ligaments, including the ACL against the New York Jets back in September. So if you play the calendar the way we normally do, full year to return, especially for a speed guy, then Tyreek Hill comes back. Worst case scenario, first week of October. Maybe best case scenario, mid-September. I think that's probably a fair guesstimate when he gets back. But now the question becomes, at 31 years old, if he comes all the way back from the injury, no reason to think he won't, and money's not the issue because he's got so much money still guaranteed from Miami, you can get him on a rather team-friendly deal. Is it not obvious that he's going back to Kansas City?
Yeah.
Even though they have Xavier Worthy, their deep game disappeared when Tyreek Hill went to Miami. Obviously, Mahomes coming back from his torn ACL. Tyreek Hill would be coming back from his dislocated knee and torn ACL. And if he's still got that 4.2 speed, I think a reunion makes the most sense. Now, there's other teams out there, of course, that are going to want him. New York Giants would probably want him, to pair him with Malik Neighbors whenever Malik comes back, and probably half a dozen other teams off the top of my head. But Kansas City seems like the obvious destination, doesn't it?
Here's the brutal truth about football, though. Peak performance doesn't get timeout privileges. Highlight reels can't protect you from injuries. Hill's knee got destroyed early in the season. Dislocation plus torn ACL equals everything changing overnight. Miami was already fighting through offensive struggles and inconsistent play. Plus, those massive contract guarantees were staring them down. The medical reports weren't promising. Their championship window was slamming shut. So Miami made the move every NFL franchise makes when uncertainty starts clouding the future. They hit the reset button hard.
Okay, Colin, we have some breaking news. The future Hall of Famer, Tyreek Hill, has been released by the Miami Dolphins. Tyreek now becomes an unrestricted free agent for the first time in his career, but here's the problem. If you forgot, he dislocated his knee and tore his ACL in late September, and I just read that he was able to walk for the first time without assistance about a week ago. Wow. So the Dolphins save a bunch of money. Tyreek's status for 2026 is more than up in the air. What do you make of this move, Colin?
Well, I think he's a great talent. I don't know if he's a winning player. I think it can somewhat combustible, taking shots at people. I always think Tyreek's just, Kansas City said, we love you, we're moving off you, and they won back-to-back Super Bowls, right? Like without this speed demon on the outside. He goes to Miami, and he and Tua had issues, and he had some off-the-field stuff. So I think he's a really talented guy.
This wasn't personal.
The decision was ice-cold and calculated. Miami's front office pulled out the spreadsheets, studied the recovery projections, analyzed the age charts, and evaluated where the franchise was headed. Then they chose to start over. That's the side of professional football that breaks fans' hearts but keeps executives employed. Loyalty in this business has an expiration date that matches your usefulness. Once Hill's health became questionable, his bargaining power evaporated completely.
Breaking news, but not surprising news. Tyreek Hill has been informed of his release, according to Tom Pelissero. And yeah, not a surprise after his massive knee injury and the money the Dolphins were going to be able to save in releasing him. And now we got to see who are the suitors that emerge. You got to imagine the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be interested in bringing him back for a reunion with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. But if Tyreek Hill is interested in trolling the Kansas City Chiefs, Broncos country, would you be interested in bringing him in? He could fill that C wide receiver role that we most desperately need, I guess, albeit as long as he's recovered from his knee injury. And also, he's a terrible human being. So I personally say no to the Broncos bringing in Tyreek Hill. Do you want the Broncos to bring in Tyreek Hill? Shout out to Kalshi for sponsoring this video. Use the code DTB for a $10 bonus when you deposit.
This changes everything for Hill because now he's holding all the cards. No trade restrictions handcuffing him. No organization forcing him toward a specific destination. No scheme limitations boxing him into predetermined roles. Complete freedom to pick his landing spot. That level of control is unprecedented for him, and it shifts the entire dynamic. Hill's bank account is already maxed out, so money isn't driving this choice. His reputation is bulletproof, so validation isn't the goal either. What he's hunting for now is the perfect storm. The ideal scenario to prove to everyone that he's still that guy. That hunger makes him incredibly dangerous. Even if Hill has lost a step, his mere presence on the field rewrites defensive game plans. Coordinators start making compromises before kickoff. Safeties cheat backward. Linebackers spread wider. Corners second-guess themselves. Running lanes magically appear, screen passes gain extra yards, offensive playbooks suddenly double in size. Teams aren't wondering if Hill can still fly. They're wondering what chaos happens to their entire defense if he proves he still can. That's why championship contenders are monitoring this situation closely. A franchise like San Francisco doesn't need Hill to compete, but landing him could completely reshape how defenses have to defend them. Imagine his speed mixed with their motion-heavy schemes. Add in their ground game and play-action concepts and defenses might just break completely. If Hill's explosion comes back even halfway, that offense becomes completely unfair. If his knee betrays him, the whole experiment crashes and burns fast. That's the knife's edge everyone's walking right now. This version of Tyreek Hill isn't some desperation move for struggling teams. He's a high-stakes poker bet. Players whose games depend on speed don't get second chances in the NFL. Once defenders stop respecting your ability to separate, the dominoes fall quickly. Rote trees shrink, catching windows disappear, statistics plummet without warning. Hill understands this reality perfectly. That's why this choice transcends money and opportunity. This is about controlling the narrative of how his career story ends. There's also the mental fresh start that comes with this moment. Hill's Miami exit was messy and complicated. Frustrations boiled over publicly. Statements got made and then retracted. Questions about his leadership role never got answered. The fact that he never wore a captain's patch said everything without saying anything. This wasn't some Hollywood ending. It was a corporate breakup with bad feelings on both sides. Now Hill gets to enter a new environment without all that baggage weighing him down. He becomes the exciting new addition instead of the problematic veteran. Sometimes that psychological reset matters more than X's and O's. But the physical concerns are absolutely legitimate. Hill's playing style has always been built on controlled violence at maximum speed. Razor-sharp cuts, instant acceleration, zero hesitation on routes. Healthy knees aren't negotiable for that approach. Even losing a tiny bit of that explosiveness creates massive ripple effects. Touchdown catches become jump balls. Clean separation becomes precise timing. Precise timing becomes a house of cards. This is the razor-thin margin he's operating on right now. But here's what the NFL has taught us repeatedly. Franchises will always roll the dice on exceptional abilities, especially when those abilities can swing playoff games, especially when that ability is pure fear factor, especially when the financial commitment stays manageable. That's exactly why Hill's team selection carries so much weight, not because of media coverage, not because of social media speculation, because it's going to show us how much the league still respects speed as an ultimate weapon, and how much it dreads the day that speed finally runs out. If Hill comes back anywhere close to his peak form, some lucky team just inherited a defensive coordinator's worst nightmare. If his body fails him, we'll remember this as the exact moment the NFL finally caught the fastest player it spent 10 years trying to contain. No matter what happens next, this goes way beyond simple roster moves. This is the league passing judgment on excellence, longevity, and how quickly professional football abandons superstars once their bodies give teams an excuse to move on.